On the distant planet of Lyria, under skies that shimmered with violet storms and twin moons, the alien girl named Ceres had always felt a strange curiosity about humans, even though her people, the Valorians, had long studied the distant blue planet from afar. None had ever approached it directly. Ceres had always been different, drawn to the stories of humans and their peculiar ways. She longed to see them for herself. One day, while wandering near the edge of the Valorian Crystal City, she discovered a hidden observation tower that hummed with ancient energy. From its apex, she could see a distant Earth ship descending through the violet clouds, glowing with warm lights that cut across the stormy sky. Her heart raced. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the chance to finally see humans in person. Ceres waited until the ship landed in a secluded forest below, its metal body gleaming like liquid silver against the dark foliage. As the airlock opened, she sniffed instinctively, her senses catching the faint scent of human pheromones for the very first time. The aroma was intoxicating, sharp yet sweet, like a mixture of rain on dry earth and blooming flowers. Her body shivered as her skin tingled, and her veins thrummed with unfamiliar energy. The humans stepped out, cautious, but unaware of her presence. Ceres hid behind a massive fern, observing their every movement. She had read about pheromones in the Valorian archives, but nothing could have prepared her for the physical pull she felt. It was as if the scent carried a language of its own, speaking directly to her biology. Without thinking, she moved closer, her curiosity overpowering her caution. Each step made her heart beat faster, her vision slightly shimmering as the pheromones wrapped around her senses. As she inhaled, the changes began subtly. Her fingertips tingled, her iridescent skin flickered with new patterns, and her normally violet hair started to glimmer like silver threads. Ceres froze, afraid yet fascinated, realizing this was the moment her life would be changed forever. The humans gathered around a small camp, speaking in tones that seemed both harsh and musical to her ears. One of them, a young woman with curious eyes, leaned down to inspect a glowing plant, and Ceres felt an unexpected rush of warmth. Her body responded in ways she didn't understand, her form subtly reshaping, curves shifting, muscles tightening and loosening with a fluidity alien even to her species. She wanted to flee, yet a part of her wanted to remain, drawn by the scent that seemed to speak directly to her. She observed as the humans interacted, laughing, touching, and sometimes arguing. Each motion, each breath seemed to send waves through her system, triggering changes that she could neither predict nor control. For the first time in her life, she understood the power of humans in a visceral way, and it terrified her. By the time night fell over the Lyrial forest, Ceres had transformed enough that her reflection in a small crystal pond startled her. Her violet eyes had shifted to more human hue, a soft brown that mirrored the emotions she had begun to feel. Her skin shimmered with a warmth she had never known, and her hands bore subtle markings, almost like fingerprints, that pulsed when she moved. She realized that inhaling human pheromones had awakened something ancient within her. A biological response that her Valorian science had never predicted. Unable to resist any longer, she stepped out from the shadows, making her presence known. The humans froze, startled by the sudden appearance of this alien girl whose body seemed simultaneously familiar and otherworldly. The young woman who had bent over the plant looked directly at Ceres, her eyes wide but gentle, as if sensing the extraordinary change happening before them. Ceres extended a tentative hand, unsure if she was welcome. The human girl smiled softly, a gesture that seemed to calm the storm within Ceres. She took a deep breath, letting the pheromones mix with the alien air around her, and in that moment, a silent connection formed between them, a bond that promised discovery, danger, and transformation. As the twin moons rose high above the forest, Ceres knew that her journey had only just begun. The human scent had changed her forever, and now she had to understand what that meant for her body, her mind, and her heart. One thing was certain: nothing on Lyria or beyond would ever be the same again. The humans did not raise their weapons when Ceres stepped into the moonlight. Instead, they hesitated, caught between fear and wonder. Ceres felt the human pheromones intensify as their heartbeats quickened, and the air itself seemed to thrum around her. Her body responded again, deeper this time, as if something inside her had recognized the humans not as strangers, but as catalysts. The young human woman spoke first, her voice calm and steady. Ceres did not understand the words, yet the tone carried reassurance. The sound triggered another wave of change. Ceres felt warmth spread along her spine, her posture subtly adjusting, her movements becoming more fluid and expressive. It was as though her body was learning a new language without conscious thought. Valorian biology had always been adaptive, but this was different. This was not survival adaptation. It was resonance. Her senses sharpened. She could hear individual breaths, smell the subtle differences between each human, and feel emotions echoing in her chest that were not entirely her own. The pheromones acted as keys, unlocking dormant pathways within her cells. The humans introduced themselves through gestures and translated symbols on a glowing wrist device. Ceres mirrored their movements instinctively, surprised at how natural it felt. Her fingers elongated slightly, joints becoming more flexible, better suited for human tools. Even her vision shifted, colors flattening just enough to resemble human perception. As the night progressed, they shared light and warmth near the camp. Ceres sat among them, every inhale drawing in more of the invisible signal that reshaped her. She realized the changes were permanent, not damaging, but integrative. Her body was not losing its alien nature. It was expanding to include something new. When one of the humans laughed, Ceres felt an unexpected tightening in her chest, followed by relief. She recognized it as empathy, something her people experienced only through neural bonding rituals. Yet here it was happening spontaneously. Her heart rhythm adjusted, syncing subtly with the group around her. By dawn, Ceres no longer looked like a distant observer. She appeared almost like a bridge between worlds, alien yet familiar, standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. The humans realized it too, and for the first time, they did not see her as an anomaly, but as a beginning. When the sun rose over the forest, Ceres felt its warmth differently than ever before. Human pheromones lingered in the air, embedded in fabric, skin, and breath, continuing to guide the transformation. She could no longer stop. She contacted her people through a concealed communicator, but as the Valorian Council responded, she felt distance growing between who she was and who she had become. The Council warned her to withdraw immediately. Their scans detected unprecedented changes in her biology. Ceres listened, yet her body reacted with resistance, muscles tensing, breath shortening. Her instincts had shifted. She was no longer responding purely as a Valorian. As the humans prepared to leave their camp, Ceres made a decision that would define her future. She chose to follow. Each step alongside them strengthened the transformation. Her gait became unmistakably human, her balance adjusting to gravity and terrain in a way that felt effortless. The pheromones no longer overwhelmed her. Instead, they stabilized her, acting like an anchor. She realized her body had recalibrated, requiring human proximity to maintain equilibrium. Without it, she felt dissonance, an ache she could not ignore. Memories began to surface that were not hers, emotional echoes carried through scent and sound. She understood now that humans communicated far more than words. Their biology broadcast connection, belonging, and intent. Her species had never evolved this way, and yet her body embraced it fully. When the humans reached their ship, Ceres hesitated, aware that crossing this threshold meant there would be no reversal. The final surge came as the ship doors opened, human atmosphere rushing out, saturated with identity and life. Her transformation completed itself quietly, without pain, without spectacle. Ceres stood changed forever, no longer just an alien observer, but something new, something unprecedented, a living convergence of two species bound not by technology, but by biology itself. Inside the human ship, Ceres felt the final boundary dissolve. The air itself carried layered traces of humanity, emotion, memory, stress, hope, all encoded in scent too subtle for machines, but unmistakable to her transformed senses. Her body adjusted instantly, lungs reshaping their rhythm, skin temperature stabilizing, heart synchronizing with the steady hum of human technology. The humans watched her closely, not with fear now, but with awe. Instruments scanned her form, confirming what their eyes already told them. Ceres was no longer purely Valorian, yet she was not human either. She existed in a biological middle state that rewrote known evolutionary rules. As the ship lifted from the forest floor, Ceres felt grief and exhilaration simultaneously. Her homeworld faded beneath the clouds, but something within her expanded instead of breaking. Human pheromones no longer triggered uncontrolled change. They acted as guidance systems now, reinforcing stability, identity, and emotional coherence. She learned rapidly, absorbing language through exposure, mimicking tone, posture, and facial expression. Human speech activated neural adaptations her species had never mapped. Communication became intuitive, emotional context filling gaps where vocabulary lagged. One of the scientists explained that humans evolved to coexist. Their biology rewarded bonding, cooperation, and shared survival. Ceres understood then why her transformation had been inevitable. Her species evolved for precision and control. Humans evolved for connection. When her biology encountered theirs, it chose connection. Sleep came differently now. Dreams were no longer isolated constructs. They blended memories, human and alien, producing visions of futures that had never existed before. Cities shared by species, children born with blended senses, diplomacy achieved not through treaties, but through empathy encoded in biology itself. The Valorian Council attempted to recall her again, but Ceres could no longer comply. Her body rejected separation from humanity. Pain radiated when distance increased, not physical pain, but existential dissonance. She realized she had crossed a one-way threshold. The humans offered her a choice: remain aboard as a protected subject, or step forward as a representative of something entirely new. Ceres did not hesitate. She chose agency. Standing before the ship's council chamber, she spoke words that resonated across species. She declared herself neither defect nor accident. She was evolution responding to opportunity, and humanity, unknowingly, had become the spark. Years later, historians would mark Ceres's transformation as the moment the universe shifted direction. Human pheromones were no longer considered trivial biological artifacts. They were recognized as vectors of empathy, catalysts capable of reshaping life itself under the right conditions. Ceres became the first env of the converged, a new classification of life defined not by origin but by adaptability. Wherever humans traveled, she went with them, not as an experiment, but as proof. Other species reacted differently to humanity. Some resisted, some studied from afar, but none could deny the pattern. Humans changed ecosystems without intention. They did not dominate through force alone, but through presence, through biology that invited connection rather than conquest. Ceres helped humanity understand this responsibility, teaching restraint, awareness, and respect. Humans learned that simply existing among others could alter destinies, that their scent, their emotions, their bonds were not neutral. Over time, voluntary convergence began, carefully regulated, consensual, and guided by Ceres's research. New beings emerged, each unique, none diminished. Evolution accelerated not through competition, but collaboration. Ceres herself stabilized fully, her form settled into something unmistakably her own. Alien grace blended with human expressiveness. Her voice carried harmonics that soothed conflict. Her presence altered negotiations before words were spoken. When she finally returned to Lyria, she was no longer seen as lost. She was seen as the future arriving early. Her people listened as she explained what humanity truly was: not conquerors, not saviors, but catalysts. In the final address recorded for human archives, Ceres summarized the truth simply: humans did not change her by force. They changed her by being what they were, and the universe would never be the same because of it. Far beyond known space, new life would someday inhale human air for the first time, and when it did, evolution would listen. Long after the first convergences reshaped diplomacy and exploration, Ceres began to notice something subtle shifting within humanity itself. The change was not dramatic, not visible on scanners or charts, but it was present in the quiet moments between words. Humans who traveled with her began to slow their breathing when she entered a room. Conflicts softened before escalating. Decisions carried an unfamiliar patience. At first, scientists attributed it to psychology, cultural influence, expectation bias, learned behavior. Ceres understood otherwise. The convergence had never been a one-way transformation. Just as human pheromones had reshaped her, her altered biology now reflected something back. A feedback loop had formed, gentle but persistent. Human senses could not detect it consciously, yet their nervous systems responded. Her presence carried a stabilizing signal, an echo of Valorian coherence filtered through human emotional bandwidth. Where humans once broadcast connection outward, they now received clarity inward. On long voyages between stars, crew members reported fewer nightmares, stress markers dropped, cooperation increased even in high-risk missions. Humanity was not becoming something else, it was becoming more fully itself, refined rather than replaced. Ceres recorded these observations carefully, aware of the implications. Humanity had always been a catalyst for others. Now the universe was quietly responding in kind. Evolution was no longer directional, it was conversational. During a deep space mission beyond mapped territory, the ship encountered a drifting structure older than recorded civilizations. It emitted no power, no signal, yet Ceres felt it immediately, a resonance unlike anything she had sensed before, not human, not alien, but potential. As the ship approached, human crew members felt it too. A shared stillness settled over them. Instruments remained silent, yet every instinct urged attention. Ceres realized the structure was not inactive, it was listening. When Ceres stepped forward alone, the structure responded. Surfaces unfolded like thought made physical. Patterns emerged that mirrored neural activity rather than language. Ceres understood then that some intelligences did not evolve through biology or technology, but through observation. This entity had watched the universe for eons, absorbing signals, waiting for a species capable of both projecting and receiving meaning. Humanity had been loud, expressive, emotional. Ceres had become coherent, integrative. Together, they formed a complete signal. The structure began to change, not transforming itself, but awakening dormant pathways across subspace. Routes opened that ignored distance. Communication potential expanded beyond light and matter. Humanity had not been chosen, Ceres realized. It had arrived at the right moment, carrying the right traits: connection without uniformity, adaptability without erasure. As the crew returned to the ship, Ceres felt no fear, only certainty. The universe was not indifferent. It had simply been waiting for dialogue rather than dominance. In the years that followed, this quiet signal spread, not as conquest, not as ideology, but as invitation. Civilizations that encountered humanity reported similar effects: reduced hostility, increased cooperation, a sense of being seen rather than measured. Ceres remained at the center not as leader, but as translator, not of language, but of presence. She reminded humanity constantly that their greatest influence was not their technology, their ships, or their weapons. It was their ability to feel, to bond, to care outward without losing themselves. In her final recorded message, addressed not to any one species, but to the universe itself, Ceres spoke simply: change does not require force, only contact, only openness. Far from Earth, beneath unfamiliar stars, a human child would one day take a breath beside an alien friend, and neither would realize that evolution was happening quietly in that moment, listening, learning, responding. And the universe, once silent, would continue to answer.